In May 1950, two brothers cutting peat in a bog near Tollund, Denmark, uncovered a face that stopped them cold. Closed eyes, stubbled chin, a peaceful, sleeping expression, so fresh and undecayed that the brothers assumed they'd found a recent murder victim and called the police. Detectives opened what they treated as an active homicide investigation. The man had actually been dead for roughly 2,400 years. This is the strange, genuinely documented science of bog bodies. Human remains preserved so completely by peat chemistry that police in multiple European countries have opened real murder investigations before archaeologists arrive to explain the victim died during the Iron Age. Tollund Man is the most famous case, but he's part of a much larger pattern of preservation, ritual, and violent death that bogs have kept intact for thousands of years. If real forensic mysteries with genuinely documented science are why you're here, subscribe and turn on notifications. We go looking for the next one every week. The preservation isn't mystical, it's specific, understood chemistry. Sphagnum moss, the dominant plant in these bogs, creates an intensely acidic environment as it decomposes, while binding available nitrogen in the surrounding water, exactly what bacteria need to break down tissue. Without nitrogen, and in water with almost no dissolved oxygen, decomposition essentially can't happen. At the same time, the moss releases tannins, chemically similar to those used in leather tanning, which bind to and preserve skin rather than letting it decay. The same acidity that preserves skin, hair, and facial features in lifelike detail also actively dissolves bone, which is why many bog bodies were initially misidentified. Their skeletons partly demineralized while their skin remained intact. Once archaeologists, including Glob, took over from the police, examination revealed extraordinary detail. Tollund Man's stubble and closed eyelashes were intact enough for genuine forensic facial analysis. Radiocarbon dating placed his death around 400 BC, during Denmark's pre-Roman Iron Age, a period with no surviving written records from the region, meaning everything known about his death comes entirely from physical evidence. That evidence points to a death that was neither accidental nor natural. A rope still preserved around his neck showed he'd been hanged. An examination confirmed the rope caused his death rather than being placed afterward. His body was found in a careful, crouched position, eyes and mouth gently closed, deliberately arranged rather than simply discarded. Stomach content analysis, revisited with improved modern methods, revealed his last meal, a porridge of barley, flax, and wild plant seeds, with no fresh fruit or meat. Evidence some researchers connect to a death in late winter or early spring, before the growing season's fresh food was available. The combination, a careful hanging, a deliberately arranged body, a meal lacking summer or autumn foods, within a region with fragmentary evidence of Iron Age ritual practice, led Glob and most archaeologists since to conclude Tollund Man was very likely a ritual sacrifice, possibly connected to fertility or agricultural rites documented in other northern European Iron Age cultures. It's worth being clear, this remains an interpretation built from circumstantial evidence, not documented certainty. There's no surviving text explaining Danish Iron Age belief. Tollund Man isn't isolated. Grauballe Man, found in a different Danish bog just 2 years later in 1952, showed even more dramatic violence. His throat was cut so deeply it nearly severed his spine. Lindow Man, found in England in 1984, showed what researchers controversially call a triple death: a head wound, a garrote, and a cut throat, debated as either elaborate ritual killing or partly post-mortem damage from the machinery that discovered him. Across roughly 1,000 documented bog body finds throughout Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands, Ireland, and Britain, researchers have found recurring patterns supporting ritual interpretation. Bodies deliberately weighted or staked into the bog, overkill, violence far beyond what death required, and a clear preference for bog deposition over the conventional burial used elsewhere in the same societies, suggesting the bog itself held specific religious meaning. Modern isotope analysis has added further texture, examining chemical ratios in bone and hair to reconstruct diet and rough geographic origin. In several cases, this has suggested individual bog bodies traveled from other regions before death, an open question about whether victims were always community members or sometimes outsiders. Tollund Man is displayed today at the Silkeborg Museum in Denmark, his face genuinely original, still wearing the same closed, contemplative expression that convinced two peat cutters in 1950 they'd found a fresh crime scene. More than 70 years later, he remains one of the best preserved human faces from antiquity anywhere on Earth, an accidental gift of bog chemistry that briefly convinced modern detectives they were investigating a killing from last winter rather than one from roughly 24 centuries earlier.